read all of Wind and Truth in a single storming weekend. Granted, with Audible's help, I may have dozed off a few times, but I don't think I missed anything too important. So I will give you my non-spoilery thoughts on the book as a whole. Now, because this video needs to have a semblance of reason and logic to it and not just be 15 minutes of me doing... I will discuss the points that are either generally well known or were revealed on the back cover blurb of the book. So, if that is too spoilery for you, please leave a comment on this video so the algorithm doesn't completely bury this, and then go watch something else, preferably of mine. Is it too long? Since I misread the date for pre-ordering the hardcover Wind and Truth at Dragonsteel, I had to pick this bad boy up at my local bookstore when I got back. There, the cashier was more than happy to tell me that this was probably Sanderson's longest book to date, to which I agree with her and double down, saying that it is his longest. This commonly known fact has led many to wonder, myself included, if this book would be too long. And while this sucker has had me already rearranging my bookshelf, I do not think that it lagged or any part felt overly fluffy. Though of course this is going to vary on your perspective. Sanderson has been very vocal that he will include scenes that at least one person will enjoy, but he does not expect everyone to enjoy. This is how we got the very nerdy Rhythm of War sequences with Navani and Warlight that I loved and other people didn't. I don't think Wind and Truth suffers from having too niche of plot points as Rhythm of War. Wind and Truth, however, does adhere to Robert Jordan's rule that every new book in a series must entail a new concept. Whether this adherence is going to detract or add to your reading experience is going to vary by the reader. For me, it felt like Wind and Truth was starting more like a new series almost, like Trickster's Choice by Tamara Pierce, rather than ending one in some cases like The Return of the King by J.R.R. Tolkien. I'm not going to expand any further, lest there be spoilers. Sanderson is a liar. For such an open-faced, communicative man, Brandon Sanderson's ability to give out half-truths and misinformation never ceases to amaze me, and Wind and Truth is no exception. This book truly feels like it was written in conversation with the fandom, confirming or denying almost any major theory I've come across on the internet these past few years. Wind and Truth confirms some theories, denies others, and reimagines some in ways that their original questioner would never have imagined. So even my wrong theories felt vindicated as this book seems to address them and convinced me, at least, why Sanderson's way was better for the story he is telling. After all, artists are not line cooks in a restaurant, destined to deliver exactly what the reader ordered. Rather, we pay people like Sanderson to surprise us, but in a reasonable way that we can still follow. And Sanderson in Wind and Truth, for me, pulls this off beautifully. So I am satisfied with Wind and Truth on the whole, even if in order to keep some surprises, Sanderson straight up lied to us. This man is truly Kelsier's creator. Journey to the West. Let's go through the back covers plotline by plotline, starting with the most open-ended for me going into this book, Kaladin and Zeth's journey to the west. While slightly less formulaic and most definitely shorter than Tripitaka's similarly oriented journey, there is certainly enough here for me to make a comparison video of the two stories sometime in the future. The fact that this tale just so easily lends itself to real-world philosophical tie-ins makes me so happy, and it's only possible that I can see that so easily because Sanderson did a good job of telling Kaladin's arc and Zeth's arc in reasonable and beautiful ways as they traveled together into the West, lest I say anything more. This may become my favorite plotline of this book, and not because it's necessarily a happy ending, I'm not saying if it is, or that it was what I expected, I'm not saying that either. Rather, I'm saying that every step of this journey is so carefully crafted by Sanderson that I loved every beautiful, painful, agonizing step along the way, and when it came to an ending, I was satisfied.
Raise your bellies to sustain this.
Sanderson has been very clear that in Wind and Truth we are getting Zeth's flashbacks, and I think that these flashbacks do seamlessly and organically grow into the narrative and make it that much richer for the reader in a way that Sanderson nailed back in The Way of Kings, Words of Radiance, and Oathbringer. Rhythm of War, he may have tried to use the tactic of having Venli tell Tamber her story, and yet those really just killed the forward momentum of the narrative for me. They were facts that we needed to know as the reader eventually, but it didn't really fit in with the right now. Wind and Truth has no such problems, as they blend in so seamlessly with comparing and contrasting with present day that it felt so natural, and it also was once again a return to knowing that this would end in the tragic beginning of The Way of Kings. Zeth's personal tragedy hit so much harder in a way that Venli's never could, and was only salvaged by Eshonai's scene with the Stormfather at the very end. I am still glad that we got Venli's flashbacks because they added important facts to the story, and also gave Sanderson some time to practice a narrative development that would reappear in Zeth's. And it is so much more important that it flows seamlessly and believably in everyone's favorite Assassin in White story than it was in Venli's. Zeth's flashbacks were timed perfectly and built organically on the themes and drew me effortlessly deeper and deeper into the story as I kept reading and reading. Remember Azimir? Adolin working in the defense of Azimir is in some ways the exact kind of Stormlight Archive story I expected we would get in Rhythm of War, where everyone's favorite killing machine golden retriever of a high prince actually spends his time on campaign against the singer servants of Odium.
My pack sent me on a special mission, all by myself. Have you seen a bird?
Along the way, it was such a fun ride that I never dreaded Adolin's perspective, even when the Sanderlanche hit, and the Sanderlanche hit. However, now that the dust has all settled, I think I need another pass at this one. Maybe I was having too much fun and glossed over these crucial details, or perhaps I was asleep. Either way, there are some happenings that were logical extensions of things I understood. This plot is so fun and seemingly straightforward that I think it contains some of Sanderson's most ingenious writing tools to date. Sanderson's bad art of Well of Ascension has paid off manifold in his masterpiece in Wind and Truth. and other things that seem to be intentionally just another secret. And I'm not sure if I'm happy about that for now. Battle of Narok, Redux. Sigil and Venli's fight for the Shattered Plains is a very peculiar plot line, as it seems laden to set up more future books rather than be finished within this one intentionally. We already have the Sunlit Man that I guess gives several spoilers for Sigil's plot already, and I'll let you in the comments guess which definition of several I'm using. Thus, this was the first present-day plot in a Stormlight archive book where some readers would already know how it kind of already ends. Sanderson gets us there with some twists along the way, some that are jaw-dropping, and some that are...
That's it?
Not that I'm wishing Sanderson had tortured our heroes for this plotline more. There's plenty of suffering to go around, and frankly, on a character basis, I was satisfied with how they and their plots developed, at least for the heroes. The villains, even with their setup, it was
Shut up!
Perhaps I need to just process this plotline a bit more. At least Venli for this book was, while still in character, much less whiny, and her scenes didn't drag down the story at all for me. So, despite this book's long word count, I still maintain that it is the right length it needed to be, since Venli wasn't there to be a complete stick in the mud. Woman to woman. Going into this book, I was curious at why Sanderson was giving Yasna her own arc at such a level that it merited mention on the back cover. Surely this was just added fluff for a character who would get her due in the back 5. I'm glad to say I was wrong. This arc is not at all fluff and is most necessary to the conclusion of this book. It makes its point in a brutal and direct fashion, and like Yasta herself, suffers no nonsense along the way. Also, narratively, may be its weakness, since I, as the reader, still have questions. I also may just be philosophically pissed that this arc did not meet its musical potential of the Pirate Queen, as both start with a proactive feminist warrior leader such as Yasta.
Am I to be just woman? No!
But it has a different resolution than the musical. Granted, the musical's resolution sucks, which is why it bombed on Broadway. So I'm not necessarily saying that Sanderson's version is bad or even worse than the musical. Rather, it's different, and I still have questions, which I guess are going to be addressed in 15 years.
We're on the case and we're chasing her through history.
I don't think it's a spoiler to say that the hunt for Ba-Adam Mishram, like any great treasure hunt, is first a hunt through history. A hunt for a self-described leader of the Singer forces who brought them, or tried to lead them, to victory.
Lightning. Fire. Power of God or something.
But Sanderson puts his own spin on it in a way I think only a video game connoisseur would have concocted. The Unmade have always messed with time and space like any major spread, as we saw with Dalinar's visions in Book 1, and even Shallan facing down the Unmade Mother of Monsters and the Heart of the Revel, where time, space, and the fabric of reality get a bit weird. But unlike Milton or Dante or even moderns like Robert Jordan, where the unknown and the arcane get really trippy and hazy, Sanderson gives us detailed, realistic sensory experiences that make the unknowable knowable in a way that is even more bizarre and disturbing. On a character level, I could easily follow Shallan, Relane's, and Renarin's development as they made choices and grew as naturally as one does while hunting an supernatural eldritch monster from beyond the reaches of space and time. Also, in true Sanderson fashion, their hunt is not simply one between good and evil, be it them, the singers, them, the unmade, or them and Least Shallan and the Ghost Bloods. Rather, it always remains, like every other plot line, a battle between their inner demons and better natures of themselves. Sanderson explores this in the most empathetic way possible, while still being, I think, a true video gamer at heart. To face a god. Choosing my words carefully here, I will remind you that the back cover tells us that Dalinar and Navani seek an edge against Odium's champion that can be found only in the spiritual realm, where memory and possibility combine in chaos. This gives me a very fine line to tread here without delving into spoilers. After Rhythm of War, with its highly scientific, highly mechanized definition of divinity in the Cosmere, I was expecting more of the same, maybe simplified for Dalinar's mentally direct thought process. And while I won't say if we got that or not, I will say that at least Dalinar and Navani's character arcs felt natural and appropriately supernatural when meeting the demands of the plot and the Cosmere. Dealing directly with the spiritual realm is one of the new elements that Sanderson gives us in true Robert Jordan fashion to make this book feel exciting and fresh and new. Although to get there, I felt like there was quite the exposition dump at the beginning.
The little homework tonight.
But once the gears are sufficiently shifted from what the characters thought they were going to be doing and what they are actually going to be doing, Sanderson shows us very naturally how this is the right path for the characters to be on. In Navani's case, we've seen other characters describe her as the Mother Axehound and gotten glimpses of her as the one who holds the Kholinar circus together. But when we got to her distinct storyline in Rhythm of War, it was all about her as a scientist with imposter syndrome, which was a great story, but Wind and Truth actually brings these two parts of her character together in a very satisfying way as she helps Dalinar to prepare for the duel. As for Dalinar, up till Wind and Truth, I've never been overly fond of him. Sure, I've respected him as the necessary militaristic, orderly father figure that the Radiants need to unite themselves and get Roshar into fighting Odium's shape. Yet it's through the journey of Wind and Truth that Sanderson gives me a new perspective on Dalinar and a way to truly appreciate him. There are no endings. Recalling my high school course on Beowulf, it is the nature of English epics, at least, to always leave part of it unfinished, with threads dangling, because the story, always it is said, goes on. Robert Jordan maintained this principle, so it really should not be a surprise that Sanderson does likewise in Wind and Truth. Not to mention, he's been very clear that this is the midpoint of the Stormlight archive, not its ending. So, while there are a few endings for the Stormlight archive here, the story is in no way over. Before the book's release, Sanderson told the press that he sent 3 different versions of Wind and Truth out to beta readers who found each ending lacking in some super substantial way, and the version we got in this is number 4 that combined parts of the prior 3. Now, in the 4th and final version, I do feel that he has satisfactorily tied off or got to sufficiently strong waypoints of the major arcs that I felt I was promised from The Way of Kings up till now. There are lesser threads I mentioned that seem intentionally unfinished, which, while part of me dislikes, another part of me understands that stories, after all, like fashion, are great art, and fashion is never finished. With that in mind, I still say that Sanderson, despite the lack of a complete ending, like Beowulf, The Lord of the Rings, and The Wheel of Time, Sanderson is able to bring us full circle in a new way at this particular ending of the Stormlight archive, though we know the story is not over yet. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe if you want to see more. I will be posting a spoiler review of Wind and Truth soon on my Patreon, so check out the link below if you want to stay up to date on that. Thanks for watching. Bye!